Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this is the show where I review all the comics I've read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between, and before I get started, at the end of the video, we talk about the best pick of the week from the viewers, so in the comments below, let me know your favorite book of the week for a chance to be featured. Now let's jump in. I have so many books. It's a very big haul this week, and that is 18 books. So number 18 for me is The Incredible Hulk issue 28. I liked where it ended. I enjoy Betty, so I like seeing her, and I want to see what Betty and Bruce's relationship and adventure is going to be. But I didn't love the Dr. Voodoo stuff, kind of felt very long-winded, and I still don't really see the direction for this book. I know they're jumping into a new series, so maybe we'll get a fresh start, but right now it does feel like it's staggering a little bit. So giving that 2 stars, and that is number 18. Moving on to number 17, which is Jeff the Land Shark, issue 3. I love Jeff. I do think we've been getting a little bit too much Jeff though. And this issue kind of proves it. I don't know if this is a book that we necessarily needed. I like the short stories a little bit more with Jeff. I like the comic book strips more with him. And here, it just didn't do it for me. I do want to finish out the miniseries, see where it goes, but I do feel like there might be an overload of Jeff right now, a character I actually do love. All right, moving on to number 16, which is one of the newer books that came out, and that is the Immortal Legend Batman issue 1. This is an interesting book because I love Power Rangers. I really enjoyed Higgins' run on Power Rangers, but I didn't get enough of the Power Rangers feel. That was actually more in the backup story where we get to see all these different Robins and you kind of see the team form together. Here, I felt like it leaned more into maybe what you would like about Batman Beyond and this tone, I wouldn't call steampunk, but it's like 1800s Batman. And you know, there's a lot of references to the Batman mythos of this immortal Batman not being Bruce Wayne. We got a couple other name drops here. I don't know if it gave me enough for issue 2 is kind of my issue. I think it's a good series depending on what genres you like, but for me, as someone was kind of expecting a little bit more Power Rangers, I got a little bit more 1800s feel for this character. And also when you have 18 books, you kind of have to cut stuff down, so I'm curious to see if I'm gonna pick up more or not. It really will depend on the week. So I'm gonna give that 2.5 stars, and that is number 16. Speaking of another new book that came out this week, and that is the Immortal Hulk issue 1. With this one, is a continuation of Al Ewing's run on Thor, which I dropped along the way. I didn't really pick it up as much, so I was curious about this one because with the Fantastic Four, I didn't love that first volume, but I really liked this new volume, so I was like, oh, let's try it out. I'll say I've seen this before from Thor, be a more grounded character. I just wish that there was a little bit more to it. I didn't feel connected to this one as much as I wanted to. I thought the artwork could have been stronger. I like the cliffhanger enough. I kind of want to see where it goes because I like a grounded Thor, but there wasn't anything that was really there for me to kind of sink my teeth. So overall, giving that one 3 stars, and that is number 15. Moving on to number 14, which is Green Lantern issue 26. Honestly, this would have been a lot higher if it wasn't for the art. I thought it was really sketchy. It was harder to get into the book because of it, but I like seeing all these kind of larger than life entities of the Lanterns come together. Can you trust them? Can you not? And the actual Lanterns coming together because of it to defeat a common cause. I thought it was interesting. I like how it's tying into Green Lantern Corps. I like the story. I just wish the art was a little stronger. So giving that one 3 stars, and that is number 14. Moving on to number 13, which is Absolute Martian Manhunter issue 6, which brings me to the topic of the video. What absolute titles are you dropping? You know, this was actually kind of harder than a lot of these other event type books or the ultimate types books, you know, Elseworld type titles, because honestly, I've been sticking around with all of them. I haven't dropped any of them except this week. I've been on the fence for Absolute Wonder Woman because I'm not a huge Wonder Woman series fan. Like, I like her as a character, but I've never really been able to get into her solo series. And that's kind of how I feel about this one. If you love Greek mythology, it is the best version of Wonder Woman. But as someone who's not as interested in Greek mythology and that side of Wonder Woman, obviously a big part of Wonder Woman, I just needed to make some cuts. That was the one I was enjoying the least. And that kind of brings me to Absolute Manhunter, which is in the middle for me because I like the whimsy of it. I love the art, but it also does feel like a book that doesn't move as much because there's so much out of the box thinking. I do think I will stick around with this one for a little longer. I love the style, and I did like this issue where we get to see the family get involved a little bit more. I think that's going to extend the series a little bit more for me. But my favorites, honestly, are Absolute Green Lantern. Like, I love that as a Green Lantern fan, and I like Absolute Batman, which I don't think is a crazy thing to say. I think most people have been enjoying Absolute Batman, and then in the middle for me is Absolute Superman. That was actually on the top for a while, but now it's been kind of teetering. So for now, I would say the only one I'm dropping is Absolute Wonder Woman, but on the cusp is Absolute Martian Manhunter. So like I said, this issue, I think it will be kind of the make it or break it if you haven't been enjoying it. I think this is, for me, still a make it to kind of continue. So that is 3 stars for me, and that is number 13. Moving on to number 12, which is Robin and Batman Jason Todd issue 3. If you love Jason Todd, I think you'll like this. Very character-driven series about Jason Todd. As a moderate Jason Todd fan, I enjoyed it. I do think it definitely tackles things we've seen from the character before, but I enjoyed Jeff Lemire's writing for him, and I thought it was a solid enough series. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 12. Moving on to number 11, which is Death of Silver Surfer, issue 3. This issue was a little slower than the first 2, but I still love this comparison of this girl who has lost a lot and wants to be the best fighting against Silver Surfer. You also have the Fantastic Four involved in this one as well, which of course, if you see the Silver Surfer, the Fantastic Four will probably be involved. Again, it was a little bit more about the girl in this issue and her connection to Silver Surfer, which made it for a little slower of an issue, but I still enjoyed it. I like the art, and I like the vibe of this book. I think Pack has a really nice voice for it. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 11. Moving on to number 10. I think this will be higher for some people. For me, I'm not a huge Legion of Superheroes fan, but that is Superman issue 29. I do feel like this feels grander than your normal solo series, which really feels nice. I like the Darkseid building in this, like the building up of Darkseid and a bigger story for the DC universe, but I'm not a huge Legion of Superhero fan, so it's harder to put this higher for my personal taste, but I thought the art was really good. I'm interested to see where the story goes with Darkseid and the people teaming up with them. Superman Prime gets a lot in this, or Superboy Prime gets a lot in this story, and you get kind of this like Deadpool breaking the fourth wall aspect with him, and it was interesting. I liked it. I want to see where it goes. It's an interesting build-up, but it wasn't a 4-star book for my personal taste, but I do think it was a well-done book. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 10. Moving on to number 9, which is Wolverine and Kitty Pryde issue 5. I love the original, and I like the ties to the original. It's about this girl who is all about hating mutants and learning to like them because she switched bodies with Kitty Pryde, which plays a part in that original Wolverine and Kitty Pryde book where Ogun takes over Kitty. I think it has a lot of the same sense as that book, but still doing something different, which is nice. So I gave this 3.5 stars. If you're a Kitty fan, if you like that old series, I think you're going to continue to like that. If you don't like that old series and you don't like Kitty and Wolverine, you probably won't love them because of this series. So giving this 3.5 stars, and that is number 9. Moving on to number 8, which is The Thing issue 4. I really just having fun with this because you don't really get to see the Fantastic Four alone very often. They're usually together. So to see a Yancey Street driven story with Ben Grimm is fun. And I also just love Tony Fleek's anything he writes, and this is proven here. It's more of a battle between villains, but he makes it really interesting as Ben teams up with this little girl that you think is just a little girl, but then she has powers and she kind of builds up to talking about those powers, which kind of saw coming, but it's still a fun journey to kind of get there. So overall, giving that one 3.5 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, this is a little lower than I would normally put it, and that is the Runaways issue 3. Mostly because it's a mini-series. I want a little bit more when I don't get a lot of Runaways and when I don't know when I'm getting it next. But I like the character moments. I like Nico and Gert teaming up. I really love the Gert monologue about feeling less than because of her friends and what type of powers they have. I wanted a little Carolina and Nico interaction. I didn't quite get that. You know, Nico is finding her magic again. There's just a lot of pieces here that I think we could have moved a little forward because it is a miniseries and we don't know if we're gonna get more Runaways. But I still really enjoyed the issue, and I like its connection to the Doctor Doom event. As someone who's not reading the Doctor Doom event, I don't feel too lost. So overall, giving that one 3.5 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6, which is Emma Frost, The White Queen, issue 3. I'm pleasantly surprised with this book. It just also shows when you don't really have a character that has a solo series very often, that it's just nice to get into her head and know her past, and it's her not trusting people here, and she goes to a person that she does trust, and she makes some maneuvers to get there, and I just really enjoyed the character work here. I enjoy Emma as a character. The artwork is really solid too. It's very crisp. So I just thought it was a pretty solid issue to add to an Emma solo series. So that is 4 stars for me, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, I was pleasantly surprised by this, and that's Imperial War Planet She-Hulk issue 1. I'm not reading Imperial War, and it didn't really feel like I had to. I really like the twist on She-Hulk here. Stephanie Phillips in general does a really good job at telling stories I normally don't think I would like, and then making it really reachable for people, that this doesn't feel too fantasy driven, and that's something you'll get with a sci-fi Planet Hulk type story. But what I really liked, that it felt very grounded with the mystery of who killed this guy and who has 5 wives, and then in the end it's like, well, they all killed him and it doesn't matter because murder doesn't really matter on this planet. And I just liked She-Hulk's voice a lot. I liked her exploration in this world that is mostly for Hulk and for other characters. I just thought it was a really solid story, and I want to see where it goes. I think there's more She-Hulk to come after this. And I like that you didn't really have to read Imperial War to enjoy this story. You could just like She-Hulk and enjoy the different take on her, but still feel very centered to what Jen is. And also it's really new reader friendly. If you've never even heard of She-Hulk, they explain her character really well. So giving that 4 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Minor Arcana issue 10. This is always in my top 5 because it is one of my favorite books on stands, and even when it's not focusing on our main character and kind of focusing on the bigger world, it's still written so well and so character driven. In this issue in particular, we get to see someone who does have the powers of our main character, and him being in jail and how his life was affected by that, and how he learned to explore these powers. And now maybe I'm just don't remember, but I don't know how he's connected to our main character. Maybe it's the grandfather, maybe it's related to that girl she's helping, but you also know it's kind of this bigger picture, which feels nice to the mythology of the book. So giving that 4 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is Lilith issue 5, which is just the book 1 of this book. We are going to get another arc for this, and it's just fun. If you're looking for a queer book where you just get to see these 2 girls team up, maybe they're going to be in a relationship, but at least one of them has been proven to be queer, and then you just kind of get this like queer vibe book about vampires, I think you're going to like it. I like the kind of slice of life element to it, and still having this kind of vampire bigger story in the background. And I like this ragtag team that kind of feels like Angel's ragtag team or a Buffy team become friends, even though they come from very different parts of the world or even timelines. So I liked it. I also really like the reds that are used in the artwork. It really works here with the white backgrounds as well. And sometimes I don't really love when it's just like, all right, here's this red and white, because we get those black, red, and white books so many times, but it really works here with the vampire storytelling. So giving that 4 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, this was kind of tough to pick between, but number 2 is Ultimate Spider-Man issue 20. Mostly because I do think this is setting the pieces to something bigger, and I do think they left a little bit with their son. I want a little bit more of his explanation. You kind of like stop that story a little bit, but the MJ and Gwen stuff is just great. You know, I love Gwen kind of stirring the pot, trying to get everyone on their side, and MJ's like, nah, she's a villain. Harry, you might not be a villain. Maybe we all work together against your wife. And I love MJ taking a stand, and it makes a lot of sense of why she's kind of been in the background. And the power of Mary Jane, she doesn't really need superpowers to be a great character and to be in this world of superheroes, and I feel like this book really proves that. This issue in general proves that, and I just like the drama that's building between these characters that we know and love from the regular universe, and seeing very different versions of them, all while this bigger picture of the Ultimate Universe is painted in the background. Really solid book. I gave that 4 stars, and I think it's a really good setup for what's to come. Moving on to number 1, and that for me is the last issue of The Last Boy, issue 5. The reason I picked this as number 1 is I was pleasantly surprised by this book as a whole. I'm not like the biggest Peter Pan fan. How it captures theme and how it changes these characters is what I was most impressed by with this book, and the ending, and I think it really sticks the landing with Peter Pan learning that growing up is not just becoming an adult. It's growing up with the people you love and him realizing that as he becomes his villain and realizes maybe there was a human person that was Captain Hook. As he loses his hand and he gets his own hook, I thought was really interesting from the Peter Pan angle. And from the Wendy angle, I really like seeing her being like, you know, I'm not going to marry this guy. I am going to follow my dreams. And then you get that cliffhanger ending of her coming face to face with Peter Pan. You're like, well, I kind of want more. And I love when a book kind of leaves you with, okay, if this is over forever, I feel satisfied. But if there is a sequel, I want more. And I think this book does a really beautiful job at that. So giving that 4 stars, that is my pick of the week. Let me know in the comments below what your pick of the week was. And last week was Spider-Gwen. And here are some comments about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.